How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Good.
Yay. I'm trying to check. I'm going to try something really quick to see if we can figure it out later. I'm going to screen share with you and then see if you can hear what I'm screen sharing to you. So somebody just tell me if you can or can't hear this once I start playing it. Can you guys hear that?
No.
No?
No. No.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I will. Okay, well, I will look up how to do that while I start doing all of this. Does everybody remember how to get to your vocab? I should have linked it today and I forgot to, but the vocab, the Quizlet.
No.
Okay, let me go back and relink it on today's page. Okay. This computer is not having me today. Do you guys see me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, this computer is not wanting to cooperate with me today. So the first thing it says, though, is that we're going to go over our vocab. So I will update that right now so it's on today's page. But what topic are we starting again? Can anybody tell me? Who can tell me what topic are we starting? I cannot figure out how to do this. Maria, what topic are we starting?
The agriculture revolution.
Agricultural revolution, right. Sorry, I am really experiencing some technical difficulties right now. I want gallery. Okay, I fixed everything at least now so I can see when people are trying to get on. So we're starting the agricultural revolution. So if you reload your page for today, you will be able to see that. So if you reload and refresh your page today, you should be able to see that. It's like the first thing. It says we're going to go over our agricultural revolution vocabulary. Click here for Quizlet. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share that with you. So it's on there for you, but you can just look at my screen. So we're going to talk about the different terms. Agrarian civilization. Agrarian civilization, that is a society whose economy is based on growing and producing crops. So an agrarian civilization depends on crops for their economy, for making money. A surplus is when more than what is needed is produced or made. So a surplus is something like like way back in the day, especially, farmers used to farm and grow crops and raise livestock that would sustain their families. That way they could feed their family. That's why you would grow things. But they started not only being able to feed their own families, but feed other people's families. So then they could sell all of those crops and livestock and all that. And so that's called a surplus, when you have extra left over than what you need. So they were able to start selling that. Agriculture is the practice of farming. So anything to do with farming, that's your agriculture. Domestication, the process of adapting, changing, or modifying wild plants and animals for human use. So they domesticate different crops. That way it's better for eating, or they domesticate animals so that we can use them. They domesticated horses so that you could use them in different ways, not just to ride for transportation, but as well as utilizing them on the farm. Irrigation. Irrigation is the watering of the land and plants through the use of canals and waterways to increase the production of crops. So it's not just, like water, but it's strategically placing water through canals and waterways. So to like individual little, like sections. Let me see, there's a really popular picture. Egyptians were very popular for their way they irrigated. So like these little, does everybody see the screen right now of like the farmland?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like these little, they're kind of like very big hoses going through, or let me look up my, so you can see these were canals that used to be able to get water here. This picture is what I was talking about. So you see over here, like they literally built the canals around the different like fields and the little different gardens. That way that the water was like spreading equivalently to all the different plants. Foraging is getting your food by hunting, fishing, and gathering plants. So you're going to find things. These are like where you find things or you hunt things. That's foraging. Collective learning is preserving information and sharing it with one another, or networking, and passing it to the next generation. So it's when, you learn that something works very well, so you're going to keep practicing it and doing it and learning more about it, and then your next generation is going to learn about it too, and the next generation. So that's collective learning. A sedentary lifestyle is a way of life that involves staying in one place and not moving around like foragers or nomads. So a lot of people will say like, oh, you're sedentary if you aren't active and you just sit around all day, which is true. But in the context of the agricultural revolution, it was people who didn't move to find their food. They just stayed where they were and had to come up with ways to sustain themselves while they were staying in one location instead of foraging or being nomadic. Nomadic just means you move from like one place to another. Division of labor is a production process where a worker or group of workers is assigned a special task. So it's a production process where they're assigned a special task. Today, you might think of something like a production line. So like when they make phones, like iPhones, not one person makes everything on the phone, right? So one person makes the parts on the inside. It's really more than one person, but somebody makes the inside parts, somebody makes the outside parts, somebody puts them together, somebody does all the software programming on them. So that's an example from a common day perspective. Social hierarchy is the ordering and ranking of individuals within society based on power, wealth, and the roles they play. So this is kind of like a class system almost. So that's how that works. So the ordering and ranking of individuals with society based on power, wealth, and the roles they play. Neolithic Revolution. Neolithic Revolution is the period when humans transitioned from hunting and gathering to farming, so to agriculture. So that's the time period when instead of, being nomadic and having to move to be able to hunt and gather different things that were growing naturally, they became more sedentary and started to farm and cultivate the land that they were staying on. Civilization. What is a civilization? It is a society organized around cities with a centralized government, a means of food production, a system of writing, art, architecture, and job specialization. So that's a very broad definition of civilization. There's a lot of components that play into civilization, but that's a good basis to start with. So I'm going to switch back to my face now while I figure out how to make these videos work. But if you look on your Canvas page today, the next thing it says we're going to do is start the Agricultural Revolution PowerPoint, and that you need to download these notes, the Agricultural and Farming Notes PDF, into Notability. That way you can fill them out. So go ahead and take a second to do that. While I figure out how to make this audio work. Okay, I'm going to try it again, and we'll see if it's working for you guys. Oh, I think I figured it out. Okay. Yay, okay. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a second. Does everybody have the notes downloaded? Does everybody have the notes downloaded? I'm going to download them too so that I can see. Okay, do you guys just see the PowerPoint right now? Okay, give me 1 second. I think I'm just going to do it like this. Okay, so agriculture and civilization. If everyone had to survive as foragers, there wouldn't be nearly enough food to feed 7 billion people. That's how many people are on our planet now, right? There's over 7 billion people. Farming sustains us. What does sustain mean? Does anybody know? Noah? Did you have a question?
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is actually being really slow right now.
Okay.
So it's still loading.
Okay. When I'm done with today, I'm recording today, so I'll upload this onto the Canvas page today as a video. Once we get through all of the notes, then I'll put the PowerPoint on Canvas as well. But right now, I don't want to put it on yet, just so that I'm sure that everybody is paying attention during class as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Natalia.
It's like to kind of like strengthen or support something.
Yeah, so sustain is like when you're supporting life, pretty much. So it sustains us Farming disdains us because it's like keeping us alive. And it's easy to assume it has always existed, but it hasn't. Farming has not always existed, right? Because we just talked about foraging. So before farming, people used to forage, and they would go and hunt for all their food, or they'd gather their food. So humans invented agriculture. They invented the practice of farming. This altered our relationship with the earth, drove population growth, and enabled the emergence of magnificent civilizations. So, on your notes, you have a question that says, according to the paragraph above, what human invention allows 7 billion people to survive on Earth? I'd really appreciate it if you could write in sentences from now on these kinds of assignments. So if you could write in sentences, what human invention allows 7 billion people to survive on Earth? Who knows what it is? What's the invention? Uh-oh. Elias?
Cannibalism.
Not cannibalism. Nathalia.
Agriculture.
Agriculture. I'm not sure where you got cannibalism, Elias, but it is agriculture. So, agriculture is the invention that allows 7 billion people to survive on Earth. Could you guys live without farmers? Like, would you be able to know how to find food without farmers? I don't know if I would. I'd be pretty lost. Okay. Next one. The rise of agriculture. All living things need energy to survive. All living things need energy to survive. Where does the energy come from that all living things on Earth use? Where does the energy come from that all living things on Earth use? That's number 2. And this is the same energy that is part of the reason different climates are on Earth. Who knows what it is? What kind of energy is that? Where does it come from?
The sun.
The sun. It is the sun. So, the sun is the energy that all living things on Earth use. Humans used to get their energy needs almost entirely by foraging for their foods from their local environment, and then agriculture happens. So what is foraging again?
Looking for their food.
Looking for your food, having to go out and hunt for your food. It's not being sedentary. It's not being sedentary. Sedentary is when we get agriculture. So then we get our big agriculture boom. So far you should have number 1 and number 2 answered on your notes. The next section of the notes, the true and false questions, are all going to be from this video. And I want to make the video larger for you to see. Here's what I'll do. Okay, you can all still see this, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm starting the video.
Imagine you woke up one morning and there were no grocery stores, no restaurants, no supermarkets. No problem. You'd probably go out and forage for your food like a traditional forager. Could you do it? Well, the truth is, in today's world, with 7 billion humans to feed, foraging couldn't come near to providing enough food. Farming, like what you see around me in this rice paddy near Cheongju in South Korea, is absolutely essential to the survival of the modern world. But what is farming anyway? To understand farming, it may help to go back to the world of foragers. Remember, foragers travel around their environments, selecting the plants, the animals, and the other raw materials they need, and using them without processing them too much. Farmers are very different. They select a small range of species, they tend to them very, very carefully, as in this paddy field, and they keep them in protected environments. Now, we humans are not the only species that do this. For example, honeypot ants herd aphids. They protect them, they feed them, they help them reproduce, and in return, they get nutritious honeydew. When species get dependent like this in the natural world, over time they tend to change very, very rapidly indeed. For example, the ants, after a time, get so dependent on the aphids that if all the aphids died, the ants would starve to death. And the aphids get so dependent that they cannot reproduce without the honeypot ants. Biologists refer to such relations between species, such relations of close dependency, as symbiosis. But when humans are involved in such relations, we tend to call it farming or agriculture. When humans started farming, the species they tended to began to change quite dramatically. This was because humans selected the most nutritious wheat grains or rice grains or corn grains, or the most docile and fattest animals. And the result was that within a few generations, new domesticated species began to appear, and they were created not by natural selection, but by artificial selection. You can see the difference very, very clearly if you can compare a modern corn cob, which is fat and nutritious and tasty, with its ancestor Teosinte, which is a rather pathetic looking weedy plant. Or if you compare a modern sheep, domesticated sheep, which tends to be fat and docile and frankly not too smart, with its ancestor, a mountain goat, a very intelligent, athletic creature. Humans changed too, but they tended not to change genetically so much as technologically, socially, and culturally. They learned to clear trees, to build paddy fields like this, to divert rivers, to protect their crops and animals from pests such as rats or wolves. And the result of all of this was that humans found that they could produce more of what they wanted from a given area, from a small area, than they had before. And that meant that humans could now live in sedentary villages rather than being nomadic. But to get a real sense of what's going on with farming, we need to think about it from a big history perspective. Remember, all the energy that supports the biosphere, or most of it, comes from sunlight through photosynthesis. So what farmers were really doing was diverting more of that energy into species that they could use and away from other species. The result was a sort of huge energy grab by one species, our own. No wonder, with farming, human populations began to grow so rapidly.
Okay, so let's answer these questions really quick. It says, true or false, foraging can support large groups of people. Is that true or is it false? Foraging can support large groups of people. Could we survive on foraging? Daniel?
False.
False. That is correct. Foragers stay in one small area to gather the resources they need. True or false? You guys really need to put your names in your thing. Is it Jackson? Maddox?
It's Maddox.
Maddox, sorry. Maddox, is number 4 true or false?
I'm gonna say false.
You're right, it is false. Okay. Number 5. Farmers select a few plants and animals to care for and protect. They help them reproduce and use some of what they produce for food. True or false? Maria?
Is it true?
It is true. Number 6. Humans are dependent on farming to survive. Humans are dependent on farming to survive. True or false? True or false? We're dependent on farming to survive. This one's a little bit tricky, right? So with 7 billion people, we are pretty dependent right now on farming to survive. We're pretty dependent on farming. That way we're all able to eat, and farming also has to do with the animals. So even if you don't eat plants, it's animals too. So that is true. Most of the plants and animals humans farm are dependent on us for their survival. True or false? Most of the plants and animals humans farm are dependent on us for their survival. Erin.
I would say true, just because of how they're kept.
Yeah, that's a good point. The way that we have modified plants and animals, they are pretty dependent on us. If we, if that hadn't occurred, there is a possibility that they wouldn't be as dependent. But because we've, modified things so that they best suit our needs, they have become pretty dependent. And number 8, the last one, humans domesticated plants and animals by breeding those with the desirable traits. True or false? We domesticated plants and animals by breeding those with the desirable traits. Maria?
False.
Try again.
True.
True. So we pick and choose like the different strands of plants that we like, so that we get the best result. And they also do that with animals. So they breed cows using the cows that produce the most big babies and productive offspring. So moving on. Brainstorming a little bit here. What is the difference between foraging and farming? What is the difference between foraging and farming? Go ahead and take a second and maybe jot down some of your ideas on brainstorming, and then we'll go over the answers together. So maybe jot down a couple of ideas over here in the brainstorming category, and then we'll answer them together. Maddox, did you know your hand is still up? All right. What kind of differences are there between foraging and farming? Nathalia.
Okay, so I know foraging is like hunting for animals, and then farming is like growing plants.
Yeah. Maddox, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, farming, they like protected and raised the plants when when foraging was where they just had to look around and hope they found some.
Yes. So farming, they knew where it was going to be. So you kind of have where they farm, they are sedentary. They're staying in one spot. They're responsible for those plants. And with foraging, they're nomadic. So they are moving around constantly. They're finding new places with more food, more plants, different animals. Because if you're hunting, like, I don't know, buffalo or something, you aren't going to, eventually you're going to run out of buffalo if you keep killing all the ones that you're hunting, right? So you're going to move to a different herd. That way you don't, get rid of everything. So number 10, copy this. An agricultural civilization is a large human society that relies on farming to produce enough food to survive. An agricultural civilization is a large human society that relies on farming to produce enough food to survive. So you can copy all that down. So it's basically saying farming is necessary to support large populations. So obviously 7 billion people is very large. So farming is necessary to support people. Farming is the domestication or taming of plants and animals to help humans survive. So it's the domestication of plants and animals to help humans survive. That is where we're going to end for today. I will leave this up for a second so that if you're still writing that, you can go ahead and get it all written down. But that's where we're going to end for today. So I did not make an assignment for you to upload this to yet, just because I knew we wouldn't get through all of it today. So tomorrow you're going to upload this as an assignment, though. It is going to be worth points. So just keep that in mind that you have to upload this tomorrow when we are finished with it. Also, a reminder that you have your vocabulary assignment that is due tomorrow, the one that we started working on last week, and it is on your Canvas page for today as well. That is due tomorrow. The vocabulary assignment, it is due tomorrow. Okay, if you don't have any questions and you have this all copied down, you can go ahead and leave for the day. I hope you have a nice rest of your afternoon. I'll stay on for a second if you do have a question, though. Make sure to do your exit ticket.